Hello, Abiola, you still there? Can you hear us? I think he joined and left us, I guess. Chinonso, good evening. How are you doing? Hello, Chinonso, can you hear me? Okay. Hello, Lizzie. Elizabeth, can you hear me? Good evening. Okay. She's not there. RF, can you hear me? Hello, RF, can you hear me? Good evening. I don't want to assume you guys just joined the meeting and left. It's a very bad thing to do, you know. Hello, Chinonso. Elizabeth, Abiola, RF. Can you guys hear me? Just a quick check. Buma P, can you hear me? I just want to be sure my mic is sound and clear.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, John. Good morning. Sorry, good evening. Trust you're doing well. Hello, John. Are you there?
Probably they're having network issues.
Okay. And again, at times, if you join a meeting without joining with audio, you may be there but may not be able to listen to me. I want to believe you're not making that mistake. Okay, let's just give 5 more minutes to the other guys that are yet to join. While we wait for them to join the meeting, in case you have any question from your own research, from your own practice that you want to bring on board, kindly let me know. Thank you. Hello guys, while we wait, kindly do well to drop a message in the group so that those that are yet to join know that we are live already. And then maybe if you have your friends that are supposed to join the call but they are not yet here, do well to reach out to them so we can begin. Hello Adobe. Can you hear me? Hello Adobe. Good evening. Can you hear me? Welcome, Ijoma. How are you doing? Hello, Ijoma. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can. Good evening.
Good evening, Ijoma. Trust you're doing well. How was your day?
Okay, fine.
That's good. You joining us for the first time?
No,
Oh, welcome. So we're able to do some practice, do a research to see if you could understand more of what we've done so far.
Yes, I did. But I'm still trying to understand some things, Sha.
Oh, things like what? Is it something you may want me to address?
Not really. Well, as we go on, Sha, I will get to understand.
Okay, that makes sense. Hello, Elizabeth, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you.
Yeah, good evening. Trust your day was fine.
Yeah, very well, thank you. And yours?
Very fine, thank you. Are you joining us for the first time?
Yeah,
Oh, awesome. Welcome.
thank you.
Okay, sorry. I think we have 3 more minutes left to start. Sorry, guys, for keeping you here. Okay, guys, let's start. Okay. All right, I'll share my screen and then we'll try to do a recap of what you've done so far so that for those that are joining us for the first time today, they'll be able to catch up. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now. Oops. Okay, in our first day, that's the one of our foundational class, we looked at introduction to web development. Sorry, I'm trying to locate this slide. Yes, this was our first day, right? We did an introduction to web development, and then we looked at web development under this outline. We talked about what tools we'll be needing when trying to build for web. Somebody's mic is on. Who's that? Let me see. Okay. All right. So we looked at the tools that we'll be needing for web development. We talked about how the web works. We look at what web development was, and we said it was divided into 2 different categories. We talked about the front end, the back end, and then we looked at the basic command lines. Then we talked briefed about HTML and CSS, right? So regarding the tools, we said all what you need is just your computer, which could be your laptop computer, your desktop computer, right? Then we talked about need for internet, right? Basically, you may need this to do your own research work, to learn more and all that. Then we talked about the browser. Besides you making use of the browser to do your research, you can as well use your browser to test or see the output of your code. Remember, you're writing for web, and what is used in accessing the web is the browser. So beside the browser being a tool for us to do our research over the internet, we can as well use the browser to see the output of our code, right? And we have a lot of them out there. We have the Chrome browser, our Firefox, Opera, Safari, and a whole lot of others. And we are not restricted to a particular browser, right? You could go for Chrome or Firefox. Any of these two serve you very well. Then we talked about code editors. And about code editors, we said it's just like having a notebook that enables you to pen down all your notes, right? Then coming to the world of web development, you also need some sort of a notebook that helps you to write your code. And this notebook that helps you to write your code is what we refer to here as the code editor. And there are a whole lot of them out there. We have VS Code, we have Atom, Sublime, Bracket, and a whole lot of them. We have Notepad, Notepad++, and there are plenty out there, right? But I say for the sake of our classes, we'll be making use of VS Code. Basically, that's what I use, and I'll still recommend you to go with VS Code. And from our previous classes, you have seen the advantages of VS Code, right? Because it offers us a pile of extensions that makes life very easy. Don't worry, for us that are just joining while we are working, you see what I mean by extensions, right? Then we said you may also be needing Git and GitHub. These two guys can sometimes be confused, Git and GitHub, right? Git is a version control software. And then I gave a typical example. It's like having Google Drive. I believe we're all conversant with Google Drive, just the way I have my Google Drive here now. I have a lot of files saved here. Once I share this folder to anybody, the person should be able to access this file. And we can even work on real time. Yeah, we can work real time. By real time, I mean I'm typing here, the person is seeing what I'm typing, and the person can also edit on real time. That's how Git, we could look at Git in that form, right? Git now helps us to store our codes. When after finish writing, you can push your codes to Git. For other developers that you're working with, they can also pull those codes, look at them, and write some other section, push it back, and you guys can collaborate from anywhere in the world, right? That's just the use of Git. Then beside helping you to collaborate with other developers, you can as well, Git helps you to connect you can easily connect your repo. By repo, I mean a folder. You know, when you have your Google Drive you create a folder, right? Then on GitHub, you create what we call repos. Repos are still like folders, right? That stores a particular project that you're working on. So now you can as well connect your repos to your remote servers, right? By remote servers, I mean to your cloud storage, where you can easily from your GitHub, from your system, once you push to GitHub, it automatically reflects online. That's from GitHub, automatically it moves straight to your servers online, right? So you won't go through the stress of having to, after finish writing, you zip, you now find a way to use FTP to send it to the server. Then maybe your client now says, oh, I need you to do this change. You now go back to the server and pull down the code, come down, edit it, zip it, send it back. But with Git, you can, once you push to your Git, automatically the changes reflect on your servers, right? So that's what basically Git is. Then we talked about how the web works. And I gave us this simple analogy of this road. That is just like you having your house at the other end of the road, and then there's a shop at the other side of the road. So when you need anything in the shop, you just need to walk across the road and go to the shop. You make your request to this shop excuse me, to the shop attendant or the salesperson. The person now delivers to you what you requested for, and then you walk back to your house. That's just how the web works. Then looking at it in a technical form, we looked at this diagram. It's like the client side, that's like you sitting in front of a computer, right? Making a request. By making a request, I mean you trying to search for something online. Basically, maybe it could be like you trying to search how to, or how does HTML works, or HTML syntax, right? So that's like you trying to make a research over the internet. That's why you see the internet between here. The client here now refers to your gadgets, refers to your browser, refers to what you're actually using to impute those requests on, right? Then you make those requests over the internet. That's like the salesperson that now transports it to the server. That's salesperson that now check the store. If what you requested for is in the store, he will now respond. This back arrow, right? It's like the response. He's now going to respond. His response could come in two different directions, right? It could be, yes, sir, what you ordered for, we have it. You can have it. You can take it. Or it could be like, oh, sorry, what you're requesting for is not available. So the server also works that way. Sometimes you make certain requests and you get a 4 for page not found, and a whole lot of information. Could be server errors and all that, right? So this is just a typical scenario of how the web works. You make a request over the internet now pushes your request to this, make a request to the server now responds back with either pictures that you see or web pages that you read all the information you need, right? That's just how the web works. You can easily paint it to the scenario we had previously about crossing of the road, right? Then we now looked into what web development is, right? And we said that it simply refers to the process of creating website and web application. This was where I gave us a quick assignment, right? That you should find out the difference between website and web application. I believe most of us have done it. If you haven't, kindly, before you go to bed, pick your phone and make a request to the server, right? Find out what is the difference between website and web application. Then for the web development, talking about web development, we say it's also divided into two categories. We have the front end development and the back end development. Why am I bringing buzzwords now? What's front end? So we talked about front end to be the things you're currently looking at. When you type anything on Google, whatever comes out, what you're looking at, that's the front end. Sometimes it involves you imputing certain details, right? That's you are interacting. That's why we say that it's a part of the website that the user can see. You're actually looking at it and you are interacting with it. That's you typing into it, right? I would say this front end, the core technologies behind this front end is HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript. Those are the core technologies of the front end. Then there's still something happening at the back. When you input your details you send, something picks it and store it somewhere. And that's what is happening at the back end web development. And this, we say this is where the entire logic happens. All the function, all the logic, all the functionalities of the web applications, this is where it's happening. And what connects the front end to the back end, this is still where it's happening. What enables you to communicate with the server, this is where it's happening, the back end of the website or the web application. So we just looked at this analogy. This is just your front end, which involves what the client is looking at. And then the server is behind with the database. The database is just a store where you're storing all the information. When you collect a user input, that's where you're going to take it to, right? Then from there, we went further to look at basic command lines. Basic command lines. So we say these command lines enables us to interact with the computer's operating system. We're able to look at the basic commands for Windows and then that of Linux. To write Linux command on Windows, we made use of Git Bash, right? We're still going to do a brief, we'll always keep working with these technologies so that we'll get acquainted to it, right? I'll try as much as possible not to make use of my GUI, that's my graphical user interface, right? I'll try as much as possible to make use of the command prompt so we'll get acquainted to all these commands. Then I brought in these guys to illustrate HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Sorry, please kindly mute yourself. Who's that? Emmanuel. Hello, Emmanuel. If you can hear me, kindly mute yourself. Thank you. All right, thank you, guys. So now I brought in this simple guy here. We have the skeleton as HTML. Now, when you look at your website, paint. Okay, we use these pictures to describe what these technologies are. We say HTML is basically used in building the structure of your website. So, but if you bring it down to a layman, it's like you're just trying to permit me to say build a human being, or just permit me to say that build a human being, just for easy understanding, right? It's like you use HTML to arrange the skeleton, right? After arranging the skeleton, by looking at the skeleton, you see it's not looking beautiful. So you now bring in CSS. What CSS does is CSS adds flesh, add complexion, add hairstyle, add hair color, where the skeleton clothes, so that it now look to this fine man you're looking at here now. But this fine man at this point of applying HTML, yeah, he's looking fine, but it's just dumb. He's not active. He has no brains and all that, right? So we need to put in some brains. We need to make this guy work. We need to make this guy think. And that's the work of JavaScript. So JavaScript now makes this guy dance, move, jump up and down, think, make decisions and all. That's just basically how JavaScript works on the website. You use the HTML to build the basic structure, the CSS to add all the beauty, the colors, all those fancy things you look at, right? And then you now use JavaScript to make it interactive. Think, make certain decisions. When you click something, what should happen next? Should this happen? If you fill a form, if you click submit on the form without actually imputing feeds, sometimes you see a prompt, or sometimes all those things are handled with JavaScript, right? Basically, that's just the work of JavaScript. Then going further, we looked at HTML and CSS, and under this outline, we talk about what HTML is. From this illustration, I believe that I was able to still do a good recap on that. We looked at HTML elements, who will still continue looking at. We look at the HTML DOM tree, and then the page structuring with HTML, right? Then we looked at this diagram, that this is just the DOM tree we are referring to, right? But when we get into the real deal, I'll still try to do a quick recap while we're writing our code. So day 2, quick one. Sorry guys for boring you with all those plenty stories. The day 2, that's where we now entered HTML in deep. We looked at HTML tags and elements. We looked at HTML attributes and tags. We said the HTML element, we say it consists of an opening tag and a closing tag, which we get to still look at, and then the content in between, right? Then tags, we said some tags do not even have a closing tag. There are some elements do not have a closing, right? They are called self-closing tags. We have self-closing tags. I would say HTML tags can contain other tags that you can nest them, and it's called nesting. I would say HTML tags are not case sensitive. Yeah, about this, recently I wrote one online interview, right? And I saw this question, I was amazed. That is HTML case sensitive. So some of these small basic things are things that, yeah, it's not about knowing how to make use of those things, still knowing how they work behind the scene and all that. So for those of us that maybe already have the knowledge, you still need to pay attention to some of those little things, right? You may be asked out there. Then talking about HTML attributes, to say that we have global and specific attributes. Talking about global attributes, and that was where I made reference to human beings, right? And then I brought a male and a female. Global, it means talking about a human, bringing it down to a human being scenario. It's like all human beings, or basically what attributes are like characteristics, right? So we have global characteristics and then specific characteristics. By global, all human beings, being it male, female, we all have one head, 2 hands, 2 legs. Please don't quote me for those that maybe might have difficulty or some sort of disabilities, right? I may know in sort of disrespect, but I'm just using this as a typical scenario. Then talking about specific attribute, that's like specific characteristics, right? Now we know that there are some characteristics that are specific to the male, and there are some that are also specific to the female. And that's what makes them male and female, right? So HTML2 has some characteristics that are specific to some types of tags, and then has some characteristics that are applicable to all HTML tags. Then we looked at entities, right? Say these are special characters, right? We'll still going to make use of that as we proceed. Then we looked at code styling in HTML. Now, if you look at this work I was doing, now this is a typical. Now you see the way my code is structured. This is what we call indentation, so that somebody looking at it will know that, oh, this is the beginning of this one, this is the end, and all that. It's not so clumsy. I think it's readable. This file is quite large. You may not really see what I'm trying to talk about. Yeah, but if you look at this, you see, this shows that if I collapse, you see everything is now inside. Open it, see these ones are going inside, some are coming outside. That's just what we refer to as indentation, right? Then comments. About comments, we say they are used to that non-executable lines of code. They help you to understand what your next line of code is about to do. Oh, sorry, let me go back to that. My code quickly. I think I closed it, so that maybe I'll show you a typical example of a comment. Let me see this file was here. Okay, now if you look at this, is a comment, right? It's showing login page. That's everything below this section. I'm handling login page. Now, if I go down, you see register and profile handling. That's everything below here. That's what I'm trying to do. But for some sections, you see me, I'll write a long sentence. Okay, now look at here now. Fetching a document of a particular user using ID. This is what I'm trying to achieve here. Reassigning the update, but this is basically what I'm trying to achieve here. This is what I'm trying to achieve here. Image handling, this is what I'm trying. So anybody looking at my code now, oh, this is what this guy is trying to do going forward and all that, right? So basically that's what commenting does. It helps you define what you're about to do next. And then name convention. This helps you, this is like giving you, it's like you trying to name your sections or divs or tags in a way you can easily, in a way you know what's actually happening there, right? Let me try to show us another. Sorry, I closed that again. I thought you may not need it again. Let me try to show us another typical example of. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, now if you look at this, I named this is my div post container. Please just ignore this class name. I'm using React, that's why I see all those things. But just focus on this. See, post container is telling me that, oh, this entire thing. Now you see if I collapse, it's containing everything inside. The next one is post background. So if you see the code, you show that here now, this section is just containing, if you see an image tag here, right? It's containing a background. So it's just right post content itself, post icons and all that, right? So that's just you trying to name certain sections so you can easily refer to them or easily call them whenever you need them, right? So that was what we were able to do in the previous lesson. That was just a brief recap that took us so much time. So welcome to the business of the day. Are we together?
Hello, guys. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I hope I was able to do justice to our previous classes.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
So
some of
Yes,
us are
thank you.
welcome. So we can proceed, right? But trust me, you're not going to miss anything, right? Basically today we'll be doing CSS, and in CSS we're going to look at a quick background intro, just do a background intro of CSS, which I believe we have already done, but still for emphasis and knowledge sake, to build our brain muscle, we'll still recap it. We'll look at CSS syntax, CSS selectors, adding CSS to our HTML pages, cascading order, right? And all this we'll look at it both in theory and in practical so that to make more sense, right? Then the essence of this day 3 now is so that we have a good understanding of HTML, CSS, HTML and CSS, right? And so that in our next lessons, what we'll be doing basically in our next lessons is building projects. At least at that point, while we're building those projects, I'll still try as much as possible to explain virtually everything. But at that point, we already understand how some things are working. So I believe the explanation might be less. Yeah, I guess so. But I'll still try to do justice to virtually everything, right? Okay, so intro to, we'll begin with this guy now. Okay, so quick background intro. We say CSS is the language we use to style a web page. Yeah, like if you remember the image of that man I showed us, skeleton human beings, and then a skeleton of a human being, and then another fine human being in between. If you still have that picture in memory, you understand with me that the work of CSS basically is just to give beauty. That's just the work of CSS. It's just to give beauty, nothing else. Then, and CSS stands for cascading style sheet, right? The first C for cascading, S for style, and then the last S for sheet. Then CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen, paper, or in any other media. I mean, now, after laying your structure, you can now use CSS to reposition things, right? Mine is the one doing the beauty. Is the one doing the beauty, right? CSS is the one doing the beauty. So with CSS, it's just like a makeup artist. Already you have your face, is there. You look the way you look naturally. But the makeup artist will now still come in and paint some things, make some places that are kind of depressed. Ladies, I don't mean any insult, I'm just trying to give an illustration. Some places that you see potholes, you fill them up with whatever they use. I don't know, right? So it's just like you trying to, that's how CSS also works. Anywhere there's a loophole, you can reposition things, you can draw things and all that. That's just what CSS is all about, right? So now looking at the basic syntax of CSS, we have, it has a selector, a declaration. Let me not take us, let's not speak in English. Let's be seeing how it works. I believe more in practicals than theory. Okay, so but we'll still be flying to our slide so that we won't miss a thing, right? Now I'm going to use my Git Bash. As usual, I open Git Bash. So this is my Git Bash. So now for those of us that missed the previous class, this is us trying, excuse me, this is us trying to write a basic command line. So what this thing is trying to do is, you know, ideally, if I want to create a folder, what you guys usually do, you come here, you click, you go to new, you now select folder. You see the folder is appearing there. You can rename it as IT skills. Skills. Okay, skills, right? Good. So now, but with Git Bash, I can still do the same thing, right? I just need to type pwd to be sure where I am. It's showing me that I am on the user folder. I can simply do ls to see all the folders, right? I can see that inside where I am currently, there's a folder called desktop. And this desktop is just referring to this, my desktop environment that is here, right? So now I'm on, they're telling me that, oh, where I am, there's a folder called desktop. So to navigate there, that's why you type cd, means change directory. You now type where I want to go. I want to go inside desktop. You now type it out there, desktop, right? You hit enter button. Now you see there's desktop added here. Formerly, before here, before we did the cd, this is what was showing. See, this was what was showing, right? But now after we see this, currently showing us that we're in desktop. We are on the desktop. So if I do ls to see list, that's list me everything that is inside the desktop. You now see this is everything. Look at the folder we created here. This is the folder we created. Right? That was the folder we created. So, okay. So now if I want to clear my screen, I'll just use clear to clear everything, right? Remember to see what's in the folder ls. Now this was the folder we created, we can see. But instead of going to my GUI, that's to my desktop to right click and do folder and all that, I can simply come here and say, okay, I want to make a folder. It's just mkdir, which stands for make directory, and then you specify the name of the folder I want. I could call it day 3. That's day 3. May I hit enter? Okay. Now if I do ls to check, you can see, let's check, you can see day 3 folder is here now. Okay, let me go to my GUI and see. Now look at day 3 folder. I didn't have to come here, right click, go to new, and then new folder to create this folder, right? Now, here, sometimes you may get stuck. A quick one, you can easily do research, right? Remember we said you have an internet. So to do your research, sorry. Excuse me, please.
I can't hear anything though.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. Can you hear me now? Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So now, yeah, I just wanted to show something. Let's say, okay, you're now trying to create your own folder. You now forgot. What was Mr. Sam doing again? I forgot to. You can quickly come open a tab. How to create a folder using terminal, right? Hit enter. What's coming? You can see mkdir. You now remember, oh, that's what you did. You can go back to your work now. You can do mkd. You now do your mkd. Right? Sometimes we are not robots, right? You mustn't know everything offered, but try as much as possible to know the most you can. But the more you keep going back and forth doing your research, it will come to a point where you never need to do any research, right? So feel free to always go back and forth, right? So now we have successfully created the folder, right? Day 3. Now I want to navigate inside that folder. Remember to navigate CD, or if you have forgotten, you can still come here. Oh, how to navigate to a folder in terminal. Hit enter. Could look for any of those articles and open up, right? Let me just open any one randomly. Already at this point, you know what you're looking for. Oh, you now see CD followed by space, and then drag the folder or type the name of the folder you want. Okay, that's how to go about it. Right? Fine. You now come back. All right, CD, the folder name is day 3. You now hit enter. Now you see day 3 appearing here, right? Day 3 is now appearing here to show that yes, we are currently in day 3. If I do ls, nothing came up because there's nothing inside day 3. Right? So now to open this folder using our VS Code, we now type code full stop dot. Dot means we are open this current folder that I'm inside. We now hit enter, right? After typing, now you see my VS Code is now blinking down, showing me that, oh, you just initiated me. We'll now click on it. Yeah, it's asking me, yes, do you trust the author of this folder? Yes, I trust the author. I'm the one that created it, so you can say yes, right? Then we close this guy. Yeah, so this is my day 3 folder. Nothing is inside. So to create a file Now, if you hover over these guys, icons that are here, you see new file, new folder, right? But what I want to do is I want to create a file, right? So I could just simply hit this one and type first the name of your file. I want to call it index, right? .css. Sorry, don't mind me. .html, right? We'll now hit enter. We have now created the folder. So this, sorry, we have now. So this file, let's go back to our desktop. If you come to your desktop, remember this was the folder, this was where we created that file. If I open this file, this is the index file. It's now taking the shape of my browser, remember. It's taking the shape of my default browser, right? So back to this place. So now this is where you begin your doc type. So the first thing is your doc type, right? It's just trying to say this file is the document type is a HTML file, right? You now begin, the next thing is HTML. Now, everything, the entire file is a HTML file. So everything, remember that DOM tree I showed us, right? Let me go back to it quick. Let me know how soon we are all on the same page. Now look at this DOM 3. The entry point is HTML. This HTML has two branches, head and body. Only two branches. Inside head, you have the title, and inside body, you have anything you want to have. So now if you go back to where we are, so inside HTML, we can have the head, and then it has two branches. The second branch is the body. The simple analogy we used in our previous class is just a human body still. Anything above the neck, we call it the head. Anything below the neck, we call it the body. Literally, right? Let's not try to bring plenty biology into it. That's just how you can easily explain to the layman what a head and what the human body entails, right? So inside this head, this is where we now specify our title. And the title, we now write whatever we write in the title. Let me write, okay, the 3 here. The 3, let me look at my time. So, wow, time is, I can say the 3. So if I go to, let's launch it. Remember, we talked about an extension called Live Server. So if I just right click here, I'll go down, I see open with Live Server. May I click open with Live Server? Let me see. Yeah, you see my automatically just loads up my browser. Look at day 3 I wrote, look at it showing here, day 3. Can you see day 3, right? Let's say I change it to something else. Let's say maybe the hash. Let me go back. You see the hash. So basically that's what the title is doing, right? Okay, quick one. Guys, those of us using VS Code, shortcut time. If you press your shift and exclamation, sign, and then you see this will pop up. If I hit enter, you see automatically has generated the template for me. Right? So I don't need to go through the stress of start typing one after the other, right? So you see this title, right? If I save this guy now, let me open with Live Server. I think it's already open with Live Server, right? You can come. You see the title now is document. So if I change this title from document to day 3, I save this guy. Okay, I want to split my screen. For us, those of us using Windows, you can easily press the Windows button and then the arrows on your keyboard. No, we have arrow up, down, left, right. So I'm to split your screen, right? So now I've splitted my screen so that I'll be seeing everything as I'm working, so that I won't have to be minimizing and going, coming, minimizing, going and coming back, right? So the 3 is now there, right? So inside our HTML, inside our body, this is where we write our HTML codes, right? And anything you write here, this is what's going to show on the browser. Let's say we have a div. Inside the div, we have a H1, and inside H1, we'll now see welcome to day 3. Sorry, day 3. We save. See, here we save, the effect is taken up immediately, right? Then remember we talked about H1 tags. The smaller the H1 value. Sorry, the smaller the H value, the larger the text. So let's say I have H5. Yeah, it's looking H5, but the content here is going to be smaller than this one, right? I'll now say, okay, introduction to CSS. I'll save this guy. See, the text is looking small, right? Let me try this guy out, HR. Now, remember, we also talked about self-closing tag. This is another self-closing tag, HR. Let me remove it, save it. Okay, let me bring it back. It's just HR, right? I save it. Now you see this line crossing, demarcating my work. This is the HR tag. And then we still talked about another one. Let's see, you see this one, this introduction to CSS. This is just a straight line, a single line. But if I insert a break tag here, break. Now you see I have broken this single line to this. That's the use of this break, right? But we don't need it. So basically, we have made use of a self-closing tag here now. Remember our lesson today, we are focusing on CSS. So we are about going back to our CSS. So the next thing we'll be looking at is, what do we say? It's on our list. Let's see. Okay, yeah, CSS syntax, right? See, we have the CSS rule consists of a selector and a declaration. Selector, declaration. Okay, let's look at it in code, what it is. Now, if in the head section, right? Remember, when we are talking about head section, we say anything inside the head section is not visible on the browser. Sorry, let me bring back my day tree. Let me bring back my day tree. So now, inside the head section, right? I can actually put this style here as well, but I'm making use of the head section. Now, to start my CSS, it is style. So the tag name is style. Style. This is the tag. The tag name is style, right? So inside this style, this is where I'm going to write my CSS, and it has a selector. So now, what is a selector? A selector is just let me see what we have for it. So I won't be giving us too much. Okay, a CSS is just used to target or select the HTML elements you want to style. You use a selector basically to target what you want to style, right? Now, if you look at this guy, let's say I want to change the color of my of this heading, welcome to day 3. So what my target is H1. So inside this place, my selector will be H1. That's my target. That's what I want to catch. You now use the curly bracelet. Inside this curly bracelet, that's where you're going to specify your style, right? I could now say, okay, color. I want to change that color to, let's say, red. To, let's say, red. Now you see the color has changed to red. Remember, this guy adds beauty. With CSS, I can manipulate this H1 tag. I can as well even give it a border, right, around it. Border, I could say, okay, let the border be 1 pixel. On the same border, I can specify how I want the border to look like. I want it to look solid. I want it to be of color black. Now you can see the border appearing on it, right? If I notice that, oh, my text is touching the wall, I can now come back. I can, okay, as well give it a padding. That's spaces of, let's say, 10 pixels. Now you see, you can see this change. If I say, oh, my border, the edges are angled edges. I want to curve the edges. I can now simply do border radius. That's curve the edges 10 pixels. You now see the edges are curved. If I want to even style the background, like color the background, I could still give it a background color of, let's just select color here. You can see this, right? So if I even want to position this text in the center, I can simply continue and say, okay, text align center. You see the text is now in the center. Welcome to day 3. So this is just what CSS does. So, oh, you could look at it, it's looking all fine. Looks nice now. But that's the work of CSS, to add beauty, right? So looking at our command here, this is what we call, refers to as a selector. Now let's go back to our slide. So we won't miss a thing. Okay. Sorry, not there. Okay. So we have the selector, the declaration, we have a property and a value. Now let's look at our code and pick out all that. H1 here is a selector. This is a property that we want to change. We are changing this property to, and we are giving that property a value. And all of this property and value is what we refer to as a declaration. This is a declaration. This is another declaration. This is another declaration. Which means basically a declaration consists of a property and a value. Always remember that, a property and a value. Property, value. Meanwhile, you begin with your selector, right? So even this H5, if we want to style the H5, we can see H5, the selector, curly bracelet. Which property do we want to change about this H5? I noticed that this H5, in as much as the heading is small, I could just say, okay, let me change the font size. I can now give it 100 pixels. Now look at how big it has become, right? Oh, I can also, okay, take 30 pixels. Now look at our H5. But ideally, we know that the font size of the H5 is smaller than the font size of the H1. But this is us now trying to manipulate it with CSS, right? Now, so basically, this is what we are referring to as, this is a selector, and all of these forms a declaration, a property and a value, right? Okay, let's proceed. So what do we have next? We have looked at this. We have CSS selectors. Talking about CSS selectors, we just looked at one now. There are a whole lot of CSS selectors, a bunch of them out there. We'll look at all of them tonight, right? We have the element selector, we have ID selector, class selector, group selector, universal selector, we have descendant selector, we have children selector. All right, let's go and look at all these guys. Let's look at what they are. Okay, now this is an element. H1 is an element, remember. So this is an element selector, right? So now a situation where I can have something below the line. Let's reduce the font of this guy, it's too much. Okay, I can have something below the line. I could have something like a div. Inside a div, I now have a P. Remember, a P is just Lorem 20. It's just a paragraph tag, right? Okay. Now my P, I can come here and give it an attribute. Remember, we talked about HTML attributes. Attributes are like characteristics, right? An attribute here, now I'm going to give this a class of, let me call this guy paragraph 1. Let me have another P tag. Let me write some content inside. I just generated random content, right? Using this Lorem. So here now, I'm having an, okay, let me still have a class. Sorry, I'm a lazy programmer. I don't like, let me just copy this, permit me to copy this and paste this in here, because I don't see any need to type in again, right? Okay, because now the same name, right? Both of these guys have the same name. All right, let me come down here and I'll have a P, another P tag again. Lorem 20. This guy now, I'm not going to give it a class, I'll give it an ID. I'll call this. Okay, let me call this guy third. Let me call this guy third. Let me just call this guy 1, 2. All right, these 2 P tags have the same name, right? This third one has a different name. There's something I want us to pay careful attention to. While we are talking about selectors, We say we have an ID and class. So we are trying to look at these two guys at the same time now, so that you understand their differences, right? Now, if I want to style these two guys, there's a class. They have a class called one. It's like this. Maybe in a real life scenario, I can say, okay, this first P tag and the second P tag are in the same classroom, right? They have the same class. So I can come here. Now to style a class, you begin with dot. You now put the class name, and the class name here is one, right? So if I can now remember our property, let's say I want to change the property of color. I want to give them color of blue. Save. You see that these two P tags now are colored blue. Let me increase the font size so we can see them. Font size, let's make it 30 pixels. So, you see these two P tags, right? Let me reduce this. See these first two P tags, because they have the same name with just 2 lines, I'm able to style the both of them. So anything I want to do to the two of them, I can just specify it here. If I also want a border for them, I still remember border 1 pixel, you specify the color solely, you can specify the type of border and the color. See, now I've successfully put a border around them, right? So if I want to give them a space, a padding as well, px 10 pixels, you see both of them now are having a padding. I'm able to style the two of them at the same time because two of them have the same class name. Are we together? Now, but for an ID, two elements cannot have the same ID. It's just like having your matric number. Matric number, yes, a good example. You know, two people cannot have a matriculation number. For those of us that have in higher institution or probably must have gone through. And then another typical example is of an ID. Yeah, it's just like your ID card, right? Two people cannot have the same. Oh, no, let me not go far. It's just like your NIN number, right? And it's unique to a particular person. Two people cannot have the same NIN number. It's still just like your bank account number, right? Two people cannot have the same bank number. That's an ID in this case. Two tags or two elements cannot have the same ID name. But two people can have the same surname. You can even come across a situation whereby somebody's surname is similar to another person's surname, but they are not from the same parents. That's like a class. Now, the difference again still comes in the calling. If I want to style this third guy now, this number 2, it's an ID. I'm not going to put a dot. To call an ID, you begin with the hash, and then you now call the ID name, which in this case is 2, your curly bracelet, right? So now if I want to change that guy's color, I can also say color. That's my property. Then my value, let me give it an obvious color, green. Yes, green. You now see it's greenish. Let me increase the font size as well so we can see it properly. Let's say font size, let me make it 25 pixels. 25 pixels. You can see it here, right? We can also give it a border if you so wish. Border, we can, let's make this one 2 pixels. Let it not look as though I'm stick to 2 dotted. And then let me give it a color of red. Now you see the border of this guy is dotted red. So if I still want the space, or if you notice the write-up is almost touching the cell wall, right? That's where you can impute your padding, and then maybe I'll give it 10 pixels padding. You see this guy now. Remember, 2 elements cannot have the same ID. 2 people cannot have the same bank account number. 2 people cannot have the same NIN number. But 10 people can have the same surname. 20 people can have the same surname. Even 100 people can even have the same surname if you take your statistics on a very large scale, right? So basically, that's it for class selectors and ID selectors. I believe I was able to do justice to class selectors. Please, somebody should say something. Hope I was able to make sense. So I'll know I'm not talking to myself.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. So what do we have? Let's see what we have next on our slide. So, okay, we have looked at these two guys. Now, grouping selectors, universal selectors. We look at these two guys too. Grouping selectors and universal selectors. Let's go to our code. Grouping selectors. Okay. Let's say I have another div down here. Div outside. Oh, let me put a HR to create a demarcation, right? A HR, just the line. You see, when I start writing down, you see the line. So inside this div now, grouping selectors. Let's say I have, we have not made use of H2. Okay, H2. Let me call this heading 2. And then I have H3. Let me call this guy heading 3. And then I have H4. Let me call this guy heading 4. All right. So for group selectors, instead of me, I want to give the same style to H. Like, okay, this is what I just wrote. See it down here. So instead of me calling H1 styling, I'll call H3 style, call H4 style. Meanwhile, these styles are for the same. I want to apply the same style to all of them. Okay, let me just do what I was trying to say so you understand what I mean. I call H2 and now give it a border of 2 pixels dotted green. Let me use green. Yeah, it's appearing there. Then I want to do the same thing for H3. H3 border 2 pixels dotted green. Yeah, H3 now too is appearing. I now come back and I call H4 border 2 pixels dotted green. H4 is up. This is like a waste of time. Why can't I just do this? Okay, what I did was I just commented out this code, like I just ignored it, right? So instead of going that route, so let me save. Okay, see, nothing is happening now. Instead of going that route, the grouping selector, I can do H2, comma, H3, comma, H4, sorry, this is a comma, H4. All of these guys, now I can give them border 2 pixels dotted green. See all of them. So this is what we refer to as group selectors, grouping. So you could have a scenario whereby you have multiple paragraphs or some divs that or some sections that have the same style. Instead of just wasting your time writing long CSS here, repeating yourself, right? Instead of you repeating yourself, it's better to just go about writing a dry code, right? By dry, I mean do not repeat yourself code, right? So you could just group those sections like this and then give it a style once and appear. Yeah, it now works for all of them, right? Now, talking about universal selectors. So we have looked at group selectors, we have looked at, we have looked at ID selector. Here, we looked at this one's on top here. We have looked at elements selector. We've looked at ID. We have looked at this is grouping selectors. Okay. So now the other guy we want to look at is universal selector. Permit me to put it on top here. Universal selector. Universal selector. So what the universal select guy does is he picks everything that is on the page, and to use it, you just maybe this works. Okay, the use case now, a situation where you want to maybe apply certain padding to all your work, right? You could now make use of that universal selector. And to call it is just your star, yeah, your asterisk, the star button, right? The asterisk key. That's number 8 for Windows, right? Your shift asterisk key, just this key that's here. That's just it. So from here, let's say maybe I try to give a padding of 100 pixels. Oh, that was too much. You notice that. Let me reduce it to, let's say, 20 pixels. Yeah, you see, even the HR is taking a padding. This one, I can't remember calling these guys and giving them padding. This was where we styled them. We only gave them border 2 pixels dotted. But now you see they are taking a padding because we made use of a universal selector that select all. Yeah, you may be tempted to ask me, then why is it that this one does not, the 20 pixel padding is not shaking, affecting this one? Remember, we also gave those ones a padding already, right? Another question that may pop up is, oh, it's like we're trying to style this same component, this same paragraph. We gave it a padding of 10 pixels. And I just said that universal selector is selecting even together with this one, still giving it another padding of 20 pixels. So which padding is now working for this particular one? The answer is this one that is working. Why is it this one and not this one that is working? Don't worry, when we get to the next, I think that was, yeah, the next slide, I'll explain why it is this one that is working, and not the one on top, right? So that's it for group selectors and universal selectors. So let's see what we have next. We have descendant selector, children selector. Yeah, this guy is quite tricky. But we'll do something about it. Okay. This universal selector is really messing up my work. Permit me to just comment it out. But I believe we understand what it is now. Okay, yeah. Now everything is back to normal. So let's go down and then add another HR. Oh, again, you may also notice me, instead of me going less than HR / greater than save to have that line, I just write HR and hit enter on my button, save it, and see automatically generate the other part. We talked about extensions. All these things are being handled by extensions, right? And to get your extensions for those of us that are just joining, if you look at this button, this icon here, you can see extensions written on it. When you open up, you'll be able to download or install extensions that helps you in your work, right? The live server we are making use of, look at it here, it's already installed on my system, right? You could do a research to understand how extensions work. It's quite easy, right? Or you could also chat in a group so that we'll still guide you through it. But for now, let's try and proceed since we don't have so much time. Okay, so we are looking at descendant and children selectors. Okay, let me write a comment. Descendant selector. Remember, this is a non-executable line of code, right? This is how we comment in HTML. We have looked at this in our previous lesson as well. So now let's say we have another div here. Oh, let me show us another cool trick, right? I want to have, this is what I want to have. I want to have a div. Inside this div, I want to have a p tag. But instead of writing first div, enter inside p tag. You know, I can easily do this. Okay, this guy. I can easily do div greater than p. See, right? Div greater than p, and then automatically it generates this for me. So if I want to go deeper, I could do div greater than p, greater than maybe a span, You see, inside the div, I have a p tag. Inside the p tag, I have a span tag, right? So basically, that's another cool trick you could make use of. Now, we are talking about descendant and children selector. Descendant selector. Now, let's say this div have a class. Let me call it container. Then inside this p tag here now, let me generate my random text, Lorem20, and then I save this guy, div Lorem20. Now to style this, I want to style p here. This particular p, I want to style it. Oh, my container. I want to style this particular p, but I want to use the descendant selector method. The descendant selector method. This is the p I'm targeting. So, and meanwhile, this p is inside the div, and this div has a class called container here, right? So I can come up to inside my style. So now this is also writing descendant selector, right? So I can come here and now remember that div has a class. So to call class, how do we call class here? Somebody should unmute and tell us quickly. How are we going to call class?
Dot.
Dot. Thank you very much. So begin with dot. Now write the name of that class, which is container, curly bracelet, right? So now, as we want to style that div, this is where we style the div, but I want to style the descendant. I want to style the descendant, right? So now, p after container, I now give a space. I'll put a p. That's what I'm trying to tell the browser is you are going to encounter a HTML element with a class name of container. Inside that container, it has a descendant called p. Okay, this is it. Let's try to style it. Let's give it a color. Let's give it a color of white. Oh, you could easily write white. Oh, you see, you notice that it's gone, right? Because it's color white and my background is also white. So I could also give, okay. Now let's give it a background of, let's say, black. You now see this is the background. The color is white. Look at how I selected that P. I called the div container. That you check through, you're going to see a div or a HTML element called container. Inside, you're going to see a p tag. That's a descendant. Give it a color of white and a background color of black, right? We could still give it a padding so it comes out very well, 10 pixels. So now you see how it's looking, right? So this is what we refer to as descendant selectors. Then for the child selector, let's illustrate it too. They kind of look similar, but there's a little caveat to it. Let me see, give this guy. Okay, now another cool trick I want to try again. Another shortcut I want to use. Now I want to write a div. This is how we've been doing. Write a div, we'll come here and write class name. We'll now say, okay, maybe box. But this is like a waste of time. I don't have that time, right? So I can come back here and write, okay, div dot box. I hit enter. You see, it has generated this for me. Instead of going that route, it has saved me a lot of time, right? Just div dot and all that. Right? So inside this box, now let me have another p tag. Okay, let me give this p tag to a class. P dot, let me call this box content. You see that generated it. So inside this, I can do generate my random text. So now it's here. Right? So I want to target this p tag using the child selector. This is, you notice that this p element is inside this div, so it's a child. Here we call it a descendant. It's a child. This is still a child, right? But now using the child selector method, now I can come up to my style. Remember, the parent's name is a box. It's a class. Because it's a class, I'm going to put a dot, right? Box. Now look at the caveat. Here I'm going to put this sign, greater than sign. That's I'm referring to a particular child, right? dot, and the name of that child was box content. I guess. Let me confirm that. Yeah, box content. All right, box content. Now here too, I can say, okay, give it a background of let's give it this. Now you see it has taken shape, right? I can now give it a color of, let's say, white. I don't want to write white. There are still other ways you can specify colors using their color code, right? We begin with the hash. Like white, for instance, has a code of FF. Basically comes 6, right? FF. You see white, or could just for short 3 of this. Now you see this. Then I can give it a font size of 20 pixels. See it has shown, and then I can still give it a padding of, let's say, 10 pixels. Now you can see it. Look at the way I called it, box hyphen this guy. Okay. Now, why somebody might ask, why should I want to use this, and why should I want to use this? Now let me go back to this descendant. Let's go back to this descendant a bit. The descendant was inside container. Let's say container here. Let's say there's still another p tag here. P tag lorem 10. Let me just use 10. You now see this second p tag also took this style. This style is also coming with color of white with the background of black and with a padding of 10 pixels. This is the second one. That was the second p tag. Inside container, there are 2 p tags, 1 and then 2. 1 and 2. 2 of them are descendants of this guy. So that's why you see when I just called container p, all the descendants that are p elements are going to respond. But assume there was another descendant inside this guy called h1 heading. Do you see what's happening? H1 now took this style. Remember H1. Remember we have called H1 here and gave it this style. So as long as there's a H1 on this, anywhere I put H1, that style automatically is going to come for it. Let's say, let me put another H1 somewhere here. H1. Heading again. I've saved it. Look at it. So anywhere the browser, or while the code is running, anywhere the browser see H1, you now remember that, oh, H1, we asked H1 to be of color red, but at this, but in this, border red is this, background color, this text align this, right? So a situation where you want all, okay, now I have all the H1, and I come back that, okay, I want to change the background color of all the H1 on my tag. I can, on my web page, I can easily come here, right? And now change it to this guy. You see, it's going to affect all the H1s. But what if I want a particular H1 to take a different style? Okay, let's say I don't want this H1 again, this particular one, H1. I don't want it. I can give it now. I can now give it a class of maybe heading. Let me call this heading. Heading. So I can come up here. Remember, it's a class, so I begin with a dot. I'll now say, okay, I don't want you to take that background color. I want you to take the background color of red. Sorry, of red. See here, the one, and then a color of white. Yes, but it's a H1. So why is it not taking the style of this other H1? That's still another thing we're going to look at tonight, right? Okay, let's proceed to the next slide. uh, hello guys. Okay, we have looked at descendant and children selector, right? Okay, so let me see what we have on our list before we wrap up today's section. Okay, so the next thing we have is adding HTML, CSS, adding CSS to HTML page, and then we have cascading order. And this cascading order is what I told us we're going to be looking at. And then, okay, this is the order, right? Okay, so yeah, we're almost done. We're almost done. So basically for this one, we are trying to talk about the different ways we can add HTML. Pardon. The different ways we can add CSS to our HTML page. Now, if you notice, all what we've been doing here since is we have been writing our styles here on the same page. But there are still other ways of doing this thing, right? So that's why we have the external CSS, we have the internal CSS. Internal CSS is what we've been literally been doing. But there's an external and there's an inline. Okay, we have looked at internal, right? Sorry. So basically what we have here is an internal CSS. That's having the CSS on that same web page. So if you're talking about external now, let's see, I can come back here, create another file, and now call this one styles.css. Mine is just a name. You can give it any name you want, right? So style.css. So now we need to link these two guys together, right? To link these two guys, we are doing that in the head section, right? We can come in the head section, maybe somewhere after our title. Okay. Oh, that was too fast. Let me go slow. So we're using the tag called link. So this side works. We have link. So what are we trying to link to? We are trying to link a style sheet. Where is the style sheet? That's this guy now. If I hit the dot / the style sheet is here. This is the style sheet. This is what we call relative part, right? I just press the dot button and then the / to see. Now these are all the files I can easily select, then / and then the greater than sign. So I've successfully linked this guy. If I want to use a shortcut, I'll just type link and then see this column CSS. I'll select it. I see this, it has generated the same thing for me, right? But it's better to go that way so we understand exactly what we're doing, right? So now I've successfully linked this guy. Let's check if it's actually working, right? Let me split my screen and see. Let's see if that guy is working. Okay, the only way we can see if it's working is to style it, right? So now open it. Now, if you look, everything that is showing on our browser is inside an element, a HTML element or a HTML tag called body. So let's target this body itself and style it and see. And give it, okay, we want the body. And let's give it a background color. This guy. Now see, it has taken the background color. So it means our CSS, our external CSS is working. So we don't even need to start writing all our codes here, right? So we can actually come here and move this whole file. Let's say, let me cut it. I save it. You see, all the styles has gone, right? Let's see, I can come here and paste all those styles here to still work. But on this file, we don't need to have this tag again, style. This style tag, we don't need it because already this file is a styles file. Now you see all our styles has come back. And remember, we moved it out of there's no style on this guy again. So this is what we refer to as the external file, right? External CSS, so that it will not be so clumsy on this place and mess up your entire CSS file. It's good to separate. Okay, now if I want to edit, make any changes on my CSS, I come to my CSS and make my changes. If I want to do anything on my HTML, I come here and edit. Yes, but there are some times whereby you don't want to just go there and start trying to target something. I just want to style, let's say maybe, let me look at, oh, this H5 now. This is the H5. I don't want to come here and start doing H5 style. I just want to make that style here quickly, because it's not the style I want to apply, all the declarations are not too plenty. They are just very few. I just want to write very few styles here to maybe increase the font of this guy and then change the background color up. That's just it. So I can just easily come here and write on this same tag. That's the opening tag now. Space here, style equal to encode. I can easily write, okay, font size is equal to 30 pixels. Now you see this guy has increased. And then semicolon. And then I can give it a color of, let's say, red. See, this guy is now red. So this is what we refer to as inline. So because we are styling on that line, this is an inline CSS. While the one that was in the head section, that box, the one we wrote earlier, that is what we refer to as the internal. And now that we have decided to keep all our styles separate from our HTML file, this is an external CSS file. I hope you're able to understand the differences. So basically, we have looked at the external. That's where you have the separate file. Remember the extension. It should, whatever name you want to give it, you can give it any name, but it must have a .css to show that, oh, this is a CSS file. And then the internal, it must be within, that's inside, it must be between a style tag, Then for the inline, you're just writing it on that particular line to change that particular tag you want to style that particular tag you want to make changes on. Now, coming down to this question, okay, what style would be used when there is more than one style specified for a particular HTML element? That's what we've been talking about since. That's what I think you have encountered that, right? But so now let's go and look at it. Let's go and look at it before we come back and answer this question. Then we'll wrap up for the day, right? We're almost done, guys. Sorry for taking your time. Almost done. Okay. Now, let me come to my HTML file. At the bottom of it, let me add a HR here. That's line break. This is a line break, right? And then I want to have a div here. I want to have a div here. Inside this div, I want to ask what style will be applied here. Okay, this div, I want to give it a class. Let me give it a class. The class is, let me call it what. That's not a good naming, right? That's not a good naming convention. I'm just using this for explanations. What? We call this div what? Where's the div? Look at it here. The last div, what? We called it what? Okay, let's go and use external. These are external CSS. Dot, because it's a class, what? Column. Okay, let me give it okay, no, let's use column. Let me give it a column. Let me give font size 2 so that it will look big enough. 30 pixels. I hope you can see this. Okay, let me go and give space at the bottom of this guy. I want to apply a quick inline style. I want to give a space at the bottom so that this text will come up so we'll be able to see it very well. So style margin. I want to give a margin at the bottom, margin bottom. Let me give a margin of 100 pixels. Yes, now I have margin so that this text will come up. That was the essence of writing that thing, right? Okay, so we'll come back to our word. This is our word, right? So in our external CSS, we gave it a style of this 30, font size 30 pixel. We'll give it a color of pink. Oh, pink is not so visible. Let's give it a color of white. I want something that, let me give it green, something that will be very visible enough. Yes, still not the way I want it to be. Let me use red. Yeah, red, I think red is quite visible, right? Oh, I can even make it bold using font width. Font width is bold. Now I see it's bold, right? Okay, in the external, please kindly follow me on this one. In the external CSS, I gave it a color of red. This same word, I want to go and change the color. I want to give it another color in my internal. Internal CSS, remember we begin with style dot what. I want to give it a color of blue. Oh, you see, the internal has now overridden the color we gave in the external. I hope you notice that. Let me comment this color. You see, if I comment this and see, you see, it's taking red. Red is coming from external, right? Let me uncomment this. Blue is coming from internal. It's here. Okay, let me go and put it on an inline style. Let me change color. Color. Yeah, brown. Oh, see brown. This same tag has 3 different colors. We colored it on the inline, we colored it internally, we colored it externally. So now this brings us back to this question. That what style will be used when there's more than one style specified for a particular HTML element? Okay, that takes us to our last slide for today. That the style that is applied to that element is defined by the following cascading rules in order of priority. This is very important. In the order of priority. Thus, inline has a higher order priority. That's when you use inline to style anything. Wherever you must have styled it before, whether external or internal. As long as you use inline is going to override the other ones, just as we did. We also noticed that internal was able to override the external CSS, right? Let me see shows. Let me remove in. Okay, now if we remove inline, Command X. If we remove inline, what we have now, we have internal and external. It's taking the color of internal, right? See, because it's in the internal that we specify blue. So if I comment this blue, now it's taking red. Red is coming from external here. Blue is coming internal. Now, when you go down to inline, if I took the same thing for inline, now see inline has overridden all of them. So that this is in order of priority. Inline has a higher order of priority, then followed by internal, then external. The browser itself has its own default styling, right? So, but once you specify any style, it now overrides the browser. But if there is no style at all, that's where the browser just does its own basic structuring, not like it's some sort of beautiful style, some sort of color thing or anything. It's just there. You notice by default, I think it was giving us a black. Yeah, that's like the default browser color, right? But now if you specify an external, the external will now override the browser default. If you specify an internal, the internal will override the external. If you specify an inline, the inline will override all of them. So that's just all the basic intro about CSS for today. I don't know if I was just talking to myself or I was able to make sense at all. If you have any questions, you can kindly unmute yourself or drop in the chat section so we'll address them quickly and wrap up for today. So for our next class, we'll be doing one of those 3 projects. It could either be the YouTube, the Google, or the Facebook page. But our next subsequent classes are project-based. So we should be able to apply all these things all these things we have learned so far in building some very simple designs like the one we have already outlined out there. So this was more or less an intro to what we'll be needing going forward. But while we are still working going forward, I'll still try as much as possible to explain virtually everything so we won't lose a thing. Thank you, guys. So if you have any question, keep it coming. Are you still with me? Hello, guys. Are you still with me?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Adobe is asking, is it possible to make the slide available to us? Yeah, I can actually make the slide available, but the problem is, you see that slide is just basic. There's really nothing on it. I just put out those points. Much of the work is what we've been doing, right? But still fine, I can still pass it across. Okay. Elizabeth, you're about to ask a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if we could access this on YouTube because I couldn't get some part of the lesson rather. Yeah.
Okay, I think this call is recorded, so I'll speak with the coordinator to try and make this one available at least, right? So we can watch and prepare for the next sections.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, Arif, we'll try to make the recordings available. I can see your message. Any other question? This one, you guys are not asking me any question. Was I just singing to myself?
Hello, I have a small question now.
Okay, please go on, Chinonso.
When you want to link, when you want to do external CSS,
yes,
you want to link from your HTML to CSS. Maybe
yes.
you don't want to use a style.css. Maybe you want to use another thing entirely. So in that your HTML, are you going to identify the name you use, or you're going to use the style.css only?
No, you're not using style.css only. Now, okay, let me show you something real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, see, yeah, my style here is called, my CSS file is called styles, right? I can actually rename this guy to any other thing I want. Maybe main.css, right? So when I want to call it in my HTML, where I called it, instead of styles here, right? I'm writing main.
Okay.
So let me run this. You see my code will still work. You see all the styles are still there.
Okay,
right?
sir.
Hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, Arif, I can't hear you at all. Do you have a question? Kindly drop it in the chat section. I've seen your message. And in case during the course of your research and your practice, you can as well try to, if you have any issues, you can always drop in the various group channels. There are a whole lot of engineers there, developers on that group, in that group. You guys are not alone there, that can easily attend to your queries, right? Or you could still drop and then tag me and I'll still attend to them. Okay, there was the difference between ID and child styling. Okay, the difference is when you give an ID name, just like I was trying to make use of account number NIN, you cannot have two similar IDs name. You can't have, there's two different elements cannot have the same ID name. But talking about child, right? Two different elements can have the same child name. That's just a simple explanation. Any other question before we wrap up for today? Hope the class was interesting. Okay, thank you very much, Arif. I've got your message. Was the class boring? Kindly answer me. Was I talking to myself? It was boring, right?
No.
I hope we are able to do justice to CSS.
Yes,
and again, always feel free to drop your recommendations, your feedback about our classes in the chat, that's in the WhatsApp group, so that we can find a way to always make it better. And then, so you enjoy the sections, right? So if you have any concerns, always drop them there that, okay, this happened, the instructor was too fast, he was too slow, he didn't know what he was saying, and all that. So can always find a way to get the right resources out there to you. So in absence of any question, I want to say thank you very much for joining this class. And maybe the coordinator may want to say a word before you guys wrap up for today, because I think I took over from the beginning of the class, I guess. So thank you very much, guys. He's online as well, so you just quickly address us and then we can log out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Please, our next class, I will try as much as we can to keep to the time, so I won't take so much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Good evening. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Hello. Can everybody hear me? I need you guys
Yes,
to
we can
respond.
hear
You can hear
you.
me. We are done. Just want to say one or two things before we close finally tonight. So if you can hear me, just let me, respond to me. If you can hear me, let me know.
Yes,
All
I
right,
can hear
everybody
you.
say loud and
I can
clear.
hear you.
I think some people are, some people already left. Anyway, all right. So next class, let's be punctual and then let's increase the number, right? Today we're having about I think 17 when we first started, and then gradually we are down to, I don't know, 15, 14. So let's just take the, all these foundational classes very serious, especially if you are a complete beginner. I said it, and I've been saying this from the beginning, that the purpose of this foundational class is to introduce, especially the beginners, right? So I'm not talking about people who have been coding before now, right? If you have been coding before, you think you are a badass developer, yeah, let's have you at a boot camp. Let's see what you can do, right? But if you are a complete beginner, always make sure that you attend this class, right? Because it is whatever you learn in this class, that is what you are going to leverage on to be able to scale through our technical assessment. Because we are going to assess everybody. We don't just admit anybody into our boot camp. We assess you and we test you. We test your cognitive and your logical reasoning ability, right? That is the only way we can testify that, oh, if we admit this person can cope when you get to the boot camp, right? Because the purpose of having you on camp, accommodating you, is so that we want to take you away from distraction. There's so many distractions that can distract you. And somebody who's learning how to code, you need to stay away from distraction. You need to be focused. You need to be sleeping and waking up with code, right? So thank you guys for joining today's class. We hope to see you. The next class will be on Saturday. We want everybody to be in attendance, right? And we want the numbers to increase. We all voted for 9, and I expect at least over 25 people voted for 9 p.m. I was expecting at least, if not more than 25, at least 25 people today. I can understand some people might just be returning back from work. Some people are just, busy and stuff like that. But always make sure that, somehow, even if you are not able to join the class, always watch the, the replay, the video of the, of the whole class on our YouTube channel. We share the link on the WhatsApp also. So I think that's it from me, right? So it will be from here. It is good night, and have a lovely night rest, right?